Okay, I'm really angry. I'm kind of still shaking. I just came back from Lunch Garden, which is an establishment you can go and get like a pre-prepared meal. There's all kinds of places, so you take your plate and then you just grab whatever you like, and like a buffet kind of place. And me and Renelle were sitting there having a meal. We're kind of like finishing up, and all of a sudden there's this loud noise of shouting from the area where people go with their plateaus and pick their food, and it was really loud. And first we thought like, well, there's some cook in the kitchen who's, I don't know, something's happening there. And then I got up and looked like on the other side of the room, and there was this guy who was shouting at a child. Turns out it was a 10-year-old child, and then the child was obviously started to cry and walked out towards what turns out to be the table of the mother and another brother of his, and he had like a little bit of sauce on his hand. And so I kind of went to him and I asked, like, are you hurt? What's going on? And then it turns out it was the sauce. And so I grabbed a couple napkins and I followed him to the table where the mother was. And I asked, like, so was it really hot? Just, whether he was in pain or anything. But no, I mean, he was crying because his dad had been shouting him down. So I helped him clean it up, and at the same time, I was like telling the mom, like, I mean, was that his father shouting at him like that? I mean, like, isn't he ashamed to do that? And like a, to shame a little boy like that? And then I, decided that I wanted to confront the dad instead of the mom. So I started walking back, and like we met halfway, and it was a public place, so there was lots of other tables with people there, and everybody had heard the shouting of this criminal, and so I asked him, like, so the first thing I asked was like, so was that your child? Are you the father? And he said like something like yes. And then I said, like, so how old is that boy? And like first he didn't answer, so I asked again, like, how old is that boy? And he said like 10 years old. And it's like, I mean, how dare you shout at a 10-year-old like that in a public place? Like, shame him like that? Aren't you ashamed yourself? And then he's like, oh, that's none of your business. Like, what? None of my business? I mean, so I said that it was my business because he chose to come to a public place to do this crap, and also it was my business because nobody's gonna talk for the child. That's what I told him. And so I guess that was that. And I was really, I mean, I'm still a bit shaky, but I was really angry and really pissed off. And then I went back to our table, and there was some people sitting a little bit further, and they started talking to us. Turns out they live in the street of this guy, and turns out he's a policeman. I mean, what about that? He's a policeman. And they said like, oh, they were basically supportive of what I just said, and they said they didn't expect that to happen. And I think because he was a policeman, because I was like, and I didn't know like what I could, I mean, I basically wanted to go back and say again, especially to the little boy, like, like, you shouldn't feel ashamed. It's your dad who's the bully here, and say how sorry I was for having such an asshole as a father, because I'm sure at home this stuff is going on as well, and it's probably 10 times worse than what he's daring to do and display in public. And I also would want to say to the boy that he was 100% in the right in this instance, what just happened, and his father was 100% to blame, because you don't punish children for accidents. You don't punish anyone for accidents. That's just pure sadism or assholery or whatever you call it. So that was that. That's what I would have wanted to say. I'm really glad I spoke up. It's really... I mean, the moment I started speaking, the words flowed naturally, and my emotions kicked in. I mean, I was just really angry, and I could tell that the man was intimidated. I mean, usually I don't consider myself to be like an intimidating person, but I mean, he didn't look me in the eye. He felt ashamed, as he should. And so this definitely was an important experience to me. It's definitely something I want to do more. Like become the abusive parent crusader downtown. Like I feel really empowered, and I could also tell that the other people in the establishment heard what I said. So maybe a couple of those will feel more empowered, and maybe a couple of those who tend to be abusive maybe become a little bit more careful and thoughtful how they treat their children. So yeah, that was that. I mean, wow. I didn't expect any of this. All right, have a good day.